The movie begins in 1988 Indiana, where three young girls, Alexis, Val, and Bev, are driving in a red Jeep, heading toward a rock concert. Alexis is explaining to her friends that when a girl is attracted to a man, her pupils dilate, making her look more appealing. But her friends are skeptical about this fact that Alexis told them, and they make fun of her. A few minutes later, Val announces that she needs to go to the bathroom and asks Alexis to pull the car over. Refusing to stop in the middle of the road, Alexis tells her blonde friend that she would stop at the next gas station. Once they get there, Val seems disgusted by the gas station bathroom, but decides to use it anyways. When Alexis and Bev were getting supplies from the small market, Val opts to fill up the tank when she sees a handsome older man doing the same thing. As soon as they share a look, the man's wife and children come to the car, which makes Val laugh. Inside the small market, the girls get a giggle at the TV broadcast of a religious man talking about how the music genre known as rock was corrupting the generation. Joining Val, the girls pick up some drinks and sweets, then head up to the counter. As they're paying for their items, the old clerk tells the young girls to be careful out there because there was a lot of evil, and he somehow thinks that they seem like good girls. The group giggles and thanks the old man before heading back to their car, and as they drive off, they hear the news on the radio about three young youths found stabbed to death inside a suburban home, and it's also reported that its walls were covered with satanic symbols. The podcast announces that this would bring the total death count to 18, with what many believe to be the workings of a satanic cult burning their way through the country. Bev finds the news disturbing and changes it to a different channel, where rock music starts blasting in the car. While they continue to drive, a blue van passes by their car, and someone inside dumps a milkshake all over their window. The girls angrily pull over and yell at the car, but the blue van was already driving away. Disgusted by the act, the girls try to clean it up the best they can. When they get to their destination, they park their car in the parking lot where dozens of young people had already gathered. The girls go to the back of their car and open up the booze that they've been saving up the whole day, and after doing a few shots, they start to walk through the party but accidentally see the blue van from earlier. Wanting to teach them a lesson, Val lights up and throws the firecrackers that she had brought with her into the open window of the car. The girls watch laughing as the men inside the car jump out of the car with their hands over their ears. Alexis tells the boys that it was revenge for what they did that morning and makes them apologize. The boys introduce themselves as Ivan, Mark, and Kovacs before offering to make it up for the girls for what they did, and Alexis agrees. Ivan offers them drinks and tells them that they had a case full of it, and Bev and Mark seems that they're developing a connection, while Kovacs tries to head on Val. The group starts asking each other what their first concerts were, and Ivan tries to lie about his, but he's embarrassed by his friend Kovacs. Once the show is announced that it's about to start, the group heads into the warehouse along with hundreds of other people and starts jumping around while the band blasts loud music. Hours later, the show ends and the girls tell the men that they were going to their car. But Ivan suggests that the night was young and that they should stay a bit longer. Alexis and her friends huddle up to discuss the offer and finally come to an agreement that the boys were perfect for what they were planning to do. Alexis tells Ivan and his friends that they were staying at their father's house, which was 30 minutes away, and that they had more drinks and games, inviting them to come along. As the girls drive away in their Jeep, the boys follow them in close proximity until they get to Alexis's house, which seems to be a large mansion. Ivan and his friends are impressed by how massive the place is and can't believe their luck that they're being invited. Alexis takes the group into the house to get some drinks and they all head out to the backyard to have more fun around the campfire that they've built. Although everyone seemed like they were having fun, Bev was nervous and continues to avoid Mark. Alexis follows Bev into the house and asks her what was wrong. The nervous girl explains that she's never done something like this before, to which Alexis comforts her, telling her that they were sisters and that she was glad she agreed to join them. Alexis then takes the drinks that she initially poured and gives it to the men. As they drink, Val suggests that they play a game known as Never Have I Ever, and while they play the game, the men start to feel dizzy, which had been the moment Alexis and her friends had been waiting for. And the girls finally reveal that they drugged the men, but not to actually sleep with them as they had other plans. Ivan was worried and tries to get his friends to leave, but loses consciousness before he could. Kovacs being the only one moderately awake, he goes to check on his passed out friend, but he staggers and falls to the ground, while Alexis and Val make fun of him. Once all the men were passed out, Alexis and her friends drag their bodies into the house and tie them up after stripping them of their clothes. While they wait for the men to wake up, Alexis asks Bev to bring the bucket from the kitchen, at which point Val worriedly asks her friend if Bev would be able to do what needs to be done. Alexis has her doubts, but chooses to give her friend the benefit of the doubt. Once Bev brings a bucket of water, Alexis uses it to splash it over the faces of the passed out men and wakes them up. As Ivan looks around the house and sees the symbols painted on the walls, he realizes that they'd fallen prey to the satanic cult that's been terrorizing the country. He and his friends try to scream for help, but Val makes fun of them by imitating their scream, showing them that there was no one coming to help them. Alexis confesses to the men that they didn't really care about devil worship or rock and roll, explaining that all the 18 people that were killed around the country were murdered by other members of their congregation, and it was now their turn. They were moving around the country killing people who fit the part of the devil worshippers and inspiring fear so much that their church could grow in numbers. Mark comments that they sound like the crazy preacher on TV, which angers Alexis and makes her more aggressive. Alexis seems more delusional than the rest of the group, as she preaches that she and her congregation were good people trying to spread the word of God. Upset by the whole ordeal, Ivan starts aggressively insulting Alexis's beliefs, which makes her snap and she stabs him in the neck, letting him drown in his own blood. Alexis then turns her attention to Mark, who was now shaking in fear, and tells him to ask for forgiveness from the Lord, but he refuses. Ignoring his defiance, she tries to stab him as well, but she's stopped by Bev, who asks Alexis to speak to them privately. In the bathroom, Bev tells her friends that hearing Ivan speak has changed her mind, and that she was ready to commit the murders. Proud of her friend, Alexis gives her a knife and tells her to stab Kovacs in the neck and Mark in the heart, so it looked like he killed his friend and offed himself after. While the girls were conversing, Mark and Kovacs managed to untie themselves and try to escape, but they're cornered by Val and Alexis, who manage to deeply slice Kovacs' arm. As the two men hide in the pantry, Alexis keeps yelling for them to come out, promising that she would make their deaths quick. Alexis orders Bev to go to the shed and find something to break the door down with, and the traumatized girl heads out reluctantly, now doubting her continued stay in the crazy congregation. After they sent Bev away, Alexis and Val decide to gas them out by spraying a toxic chemical through the door. But Mark finds cloth to stuff the opening with, and while the girls think of a new way to drive the guys out of the pantry, they hear a car coming into the driveway and realize that it was Alexis' stepmom who'd returned after forgetting her passport. After getting what she needs, Alexis' stepmom was about to leave, but she hears a glass break from inside her house, which makes her suspicious. Even though Alexis tries to stop her, the woman goes into the room that they'd left Ivan's body in and starts screaming, which forces Alexis to stab her to death. Val and Alexis find out that her stepmom had also called the police after seeing the strange van outside. When the cops finally come over to check out the house, the two friends were shocked and they try to quickly come up with a plan to chase the man away. Thinking it would be better to keep the cop away from the house, Alexis goes out to speak to him. She tries to convince the police officer that her stepmom calling them was a big misunderstanding, but it didn't seem like he believed her, so he asked to speak to her stepmom in person. When Alexis starts to get defensive, the officer asks her to put both her hands on the vehicle so he can search the property, but she runs back inside the house before he could do so. Pulling his gun out and following her, the cop starts to look around the house, stumbling across the dead bodies and the satanic symbols on the wall. Realizing that he could be in danger, the officer gets into a defensive mind and yells loudly for anyone in the house to come out with their hands raised. Thinking that this was their chance to escape, Mark and Kovacs come out of hiding and try to explain to the cop what happened, but he's really weary of them. And so he continues to tell them to face the wall with their hands up. While the cop tries to cuff the two men, Val uses the chance to slide the gun out of his pocket and she shoots him in the face. The scared Mark and Kovacs run back to their hiding spot, realizing that they just missed their chance of escape. Upset that her friend murdered a cop, Alexis tries to take the gun away from Val, who refuses to give it away, and the two start to fight. And suddenly, Bev comes out of nowhere with an automated weed hacker and warns the girls away, trying to save the trapped men. Val yells at the girl, telling her that they took her in when she didn't have anything, but Bev responds by saying that they only took advantage of her just like Alexis' father, the famous preacher, who was taking advantage of his congregation. Angry, Alexis and Val try to attack her, but she holds them at bay with the hacker and then grabs the gun. The two men charge out of the pantry at that moment, causing the girls to flee, leaving only Bev. Mark realizes that Bev was only trying to help them and refrains from hurting her. Kovacs has started to turn gray from blood loss, so Mark decides that he was going to find Alexis and get the car keys from her, and meanwhile, Val and Alexis turn off the lights in the house so it'd be easier to hunt down their victims. And because he was afraid for his life, Bev follows Mark holding the weed hacker. When he sees a light outside, Kovacs hurries out trying to call out for help and finds a man getting out of his car. After telling him what happened, the man convinces Kovacs to give him the gun, but as soon as he does, the man, who turns out to be Pastor John, the owner of the house, shoots him in the stomach. Inside the house, Val attacks Bev, who is trying to turn back the lights on in the house, and the two girls struggle on the floor, and Val eventually gets the upper hand, and as she tries to choke her, Bev remembers all the hair products that Val puts in her hair, and she uses a lighter to set her hair on fire. Alexis finds Mark sneaking around upstairs and tackles him to the ground, repeatedly attempting to stab him. But he finally gets the upper hand and pins her down, but her father manages to shoot him in the back. Pastor John is angry at his daughter for screwing up the mission and yells at her for doing so, accusing her of putting everything he worked for in jeopardy. Saying that she needs to be a sacrifice to clear their name of any doubt, John starts choking his daughter to death, but she's saved by Bev. Seeming grateful that she saved her, Alexis suggests that she and Bev run away together, but Bev refuses. Angry, Alexis grabs her by the throat and tries to strangle her, but accidentally trips on Mark's hand and falls out of the window to her death. Bev finds out that Mark was still alive and carries him out to the car, and the two survivors get into Alexis's car and rush out of the large estate, but encounter Alexis at the door. And the movie ends as Bev steps on the gas pedal, unwilling to stop for the psychotic girl who wants to kill them. If you want to watch more creepy horror movie recaps, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment. We'll see you next time. Bye.